where Jacob started at all. But now it's time to go back. Then Rachel and Leah replied, do we still have any share in the inheritance of our father's estate? Does he not regard us as... Not only has he sold us, but he has used up what was paid for. Oh yeah, our dad sold us anyway. You got all his money. It belongs to us. Let's get out of here. Man, you got to love these families. So verse 17, Jacob put his children and his wives on camels and drove all of his livestock ahead of him, along with all the goods he had accumulated in Paddan Aram, to go to his father Isaac in the actually been simple greed on top of everything else. Bring you animals torn by wild beasts. I bore the loss myself, and you demanded payment from me for whatever was stolen by day or night. This was my situation. The heat consumed me in the daytime and the cold in the night, and sleep fled from my eyes. It was like this for 20 years I was in your household. I worked for you for 14 years for your 2 daughters and 6 years for your flocks. You changed your wages 10 times. If the God of my father, the God of Abraham and the fear of Isaac has not been with me, you would surely have sent me away empty-handed. But God has seen my hardship and the toil of my hands, and last night he rebuked you. All right, long part there to read. Here's the cool thing about this section. Jacob is actually starting to understand. All right, he gets angry with Laban. Laban searches through all the tents, finds nothing, though ironically the gods are there, but Rachel keeps them hidden. Think about this, just a little twist. If Laban had found the idols, who would have died? Who was Jacob's favorite? Yeah, be careful what you swear, right? It often comes back to haunt you. Now, in this case, yeah. Of course, Joseph's been born. Of course, he's going to have another brother after he's sent to Egypt by Rachel as well. But at the end of it all, Jacob finally gets honest with Laban and confronts Laban about the way he's treated him. Now, like most people who have done something dishonest, Jacob finds a way to justify himself, to validate what he's done. But that aside, he's starting to realize, wait, God's the one who's protected me through all of this. Remember, isn't this the deal Jacob made with God back at the pillar when he had the dream with the ladder to heaven? And he said, God, if you will bring me back healthy with my possessions, all of that, you will be my God. He's starting to comprehend that that's exactly what God has done. But don't get too excited. He hasn't got it yet. He's starting to. Now, verse 43, Laban answered Jacob, the women are my daughters, and the children are my children, and the flocks are my flocks. All you see is mine. Yet what can I do today about these daughters of mine or about the children they have borne? Come now, let's make a covenant, you and I, and let it serve as a witness between us. Now, this is going back to the whole patriarchal society. Because Laban is the senior patriarch, he can claim everything. All right? The flocks, the children, he could, by rights, say they all belong to him. The only reason he's not going to is he's actually scared of Jacob's God, or the God of Isaac. Really not Jacob's God yet. He's still Isaac's God. The God of your father, exactly. So Jacob took a stone and set it up as a pillar. He said to his relatives, gather some stones. So they took stones and piled them in a heap, and they ate there by the heap. And Laban called it Yegar Sahudatha, and Jacob called it Galeed. Laban said, this heap is a witness between you and me today. This is why it was called Galeed. It was also called Mizpah, because he said, may the Lord keep watch between you and me when we are away from each other. If you mistreat my daughters, or if you take any wives beside my daughters, even though no one is with us, remember that God is witness between you and me. All right, here's the deal. Interesting example anyway. This is a very common covenant-making practice. In fact, if you go over to the Middle East today, you will still see these piles of stones. The children of Israel would do the exact same thing when they crossed the River Jordan into the Promised Land. They'll make 12 stacks of stones, 12 standing stones. Sometimes they would stack them up. If they could find big enough ones, they would just turn them on end. And those served as reminders of a covenant. It could be a covenant between God and man. In this case, it's a covenant between Jacob and Laban. Jacob is actually promising not to take any other wives. That's actually sort of a big thing. In that day and age, there was no limit to what could be done. But Laban's going to hold him to that. And Laban, the whole, don't mistreat my daughters, this is sort of standard father stuff. But this is also him